Okay, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. I want to hop into this article, right? The title reads, Polk County Deputies to Ask for Birthplace Under New Policy, Sheriff Says. Right, in Polk County being in Florida. So I'm going to hop right into it. Lakeland, Florida, WFLA, the Polk County Sheriff's Office is taking a new approach to assist in enforcing federal immigration laws, allowing deputies to ask people where they were born during law enforcement encounters. Sheriff Grady Judd says the policy is meant to help federal authorities identify people who are in the country illegally, while ensuring there is no type of racial profiling. Right now, when I first seen this, the question that came to me was why? Because as we read on, right, and as we're going to read over at the chat, we're going to realize that there's really nothing to gain from it, or so you think, right? But continuing, the whole emphasis of this is so that we don't encounter someone suing us and saying you're racially profiling. You're only asking people with brown skin, Jude said. After all, there are people illegally in this country with white skin. The change follows a state immigration law signed by Governor Ron DeSantis last February. Senate Bill 2C, passed during a special legislative session, requires state and local law enforcement agencies to, quote, use best efforts to support the enforcement of federal immigration law. The law mandates that we help identify and turn over to ICE those that are in this country illegally and subject to deportation, Jude said. Under the policy, if someone tells deputies they were not born in the United States, Judge says the sheriff's office contacts Immigration and Customs Enforcement to verify their legal status. And now the question is, why the hell would anyone do that? Right? If they're not born in the U.S., why would they willingly tell you that, knowing what comes after that, man? We then contact ICE with your identification and we say, are they here legally or illegally? Jude said. If they're here legally, we wish them a wonderful day. If they're here illegally and ICE says we want them, then we simply hold them and turn them over to ICE, and then they deal with the federal government. Right? So again, one, why would someone willingly tell the truth when it comes to this, knowing what's going to happen to them? Two, what stops someone from lying? What stops someone from lying? Right? Where do y'all go from there? The police has prompted questions about protections under the Fourth Amendment, which guards against unreasonable searches and seizures. Defense attorney Brian Camerino says the amendment does not necessarily apply to questions about birthplace. And that's the thing with Esau and their laws, because this is definitely, right, considered unreasonable searches and seizures, but because it doesn't necessarily apply, right, you can kind of shake it off, right? And that's how it is with their laws. You know, they're written in a way where it's based on interpretation versus what it actually is, which allows them to switch it up, right, to what best suits them at, you know, the certain point in time, right? One day this law might actually mean this, or no, you know, it might actually mean this, so then we can actually do this, or no, you can't do this. They leave it open for interpretation, right? And that's not a real law. A real law is supposed to be direct, straightforward, what you can do and what you cannot do, right? But that goes to show you, as scripture speak about, right, the cunning of this devil, right, the snake like features, you know. The Fourth Amendment does protect you from privacy, but I think it was geared more toward illegal searches and seizures of your personal property, right? And if you're writing a law, that should be specifically specified, man. You should be able to read the law, right, and tell if you're breaking it or not. Camerino said, giving biographical information to me, in my opinion and my reading of the law, is not covered by the Fourth Amendment, right? So again, he's making sure to say his opinion, this is what I think, this is what I feel, again, because that's how their laws are. They leave it open for interpretation to fit their needs, when called for. However, Camerino says the policy could still have broader impacts on community trust. I think there's a lot of fear amongst the Hispanic community and other members of the community that may not be here legally, he said. Camerino added that his advice to anyone encountering law enforcement is to remain cooperative. My best advice to anyone when you're faced with a situation is to try to cooperate as much as you can with law enforcement. Otherwise, law enforcement can complicate your life, he said. Right? And even when you do cooperate, that still happens, right? We see it all the time. Judd maintains the policy will only be applied during consensual encounters or situations where deputies already have a legal reason to detain someone, and says his agency is acting within both state and federal law. You're a witness, you're a suspect, you receive a traffic citation, you're a victim. It's an easy question. Now let's jump on over to chat, right? Because I asked some questions. First, I brought it up, right? Polk County. So like you're now asking your date of birth. I wrote date of birth. I meant place of birth though, right? During traffic stops, in which it's not just traffic stops, but as we read, it's, any encounter. But chat picked up on it and responds, yes, recent news reports confirm that the Polk County Sheriff's Office, Florida, has adopted a new policy of asking people they encounter, including at traffic stops, for their place of birth. Right. Deputies aren't just asking for your name and driver's license anymore. They now routinely ask where you were born as part of interactions with the public. What's happening in Polk County? Policy change. Polk County Sheriff's deputies now ask everyone they encounter, not just people who are arrested, for their place of birth, including during traffic stops and other law enforcement contacts, right? So everyone, again, they're putting it under, we're tired of, or we don't want to, be sued for racial profiling. Or if that's the case, why they just doing this shit? What took them so long? Because that's been going on forever. Official rationale: Sheriff Grady Judd and spokespeople have stated this is intended to help identify individuals who may be in the country illegally and to provide information for federal authorities when warranted. Officials also claim the practice helps avoid accusations of racial profiling by making the question uniform across all encounters. Follow-up questions: if someone reports being born outside the United States, which, why the hell would they do that? Deputies may ask additional questions about legal status and, if appropriate, coordinate with federal immigration authorities. What this means legally: under Florida law, officers can ask for identifying information such as name, date of birth, and photo ID during a lawful traffic stop to confirm identity. This is part of stop and identify procedures and helps officers verify who you are. There isn't a nationwide law requiring place of birth to be given during every traffic stop, but local law enforcement agencies may include it as part of informational gathering tied to immigration enforcement parties, right? And I definitely see this spreading, right? Because Florida is not the only one trying to combat quote unquote immigration, right? Or trying to deport people who don't quote unquote don't belong here. This is a America thing. So I definitely don't see this stopping here in Florida, especially in one measly county. Important context: asking for birth information during traffic stops isn't typical nationwide. Most agencies ask for your name, license, and sometimes date of birth to verify identity, but place of birth is not normally required. The Polk County policy is unusual and specifically tied to broader immigration enforcement efforts in Florida. If you want, I can break down what your rights are during a traffic stop in Florida, right? And then Not all states had an alligator Alcatraz either. So you see Florida, right? DeSantis, you know, is clearly one of those big players. But then I go on and ask it, what if someone says they are born in the US? If someone says they were born in the United States, here's what typically happens and what it means legally, especially in a Polk County traffic stop. What the deputy will usually do, no further immigration questioning is normally required. The deputy proceeds like a standard traffic stop: license, registration, insurance, citation, and warning. Being US born equals US citizen by birth under the 14th Amendment, so there's no immigration issue to pursue. Do you have to prove it? No. You are not required to carry proof of citizenship like a birth certificate or passport during a traffic stop. A valid driver's license is generally sufficient for identification. Right, and that's the thing. If you don't have to prove it, what's stopping you from lying? Can they challenge or investigate anyway? Only if there's independent, lawful reason, not accent, skin color, name, etc. Deputies cannot detain you longer just to verify citizenship once identity is established. Prolonging the stop without reasonable suspicion can violate the Fourth Amendment. Important distinction: lying to law enforcement can be a crime, but simply stating I was born in the United States, if true, ends the immigration line of questioning, right? Yeah, of course lying would be a crime, but them being over here, right, when they're not supposed to, air quotes, finger quotes, is already a crime as well. So jumping down, right, I asked it so people can just lie. Short answer: people can lie, but they legally shouldn't, and they can backfire, right? And which, why the fuck anyone care about that? Obviously, they're gonna lie, because if they don't, they get deported, right? It's not gonna be no, you get sent to ICE, we're never seeing you again, bro. More than likely. Lying versus staying silent. Lying to law enforcement can be a crime. False statements, obstruction, especially if it affects a stop or leads to further action. You are not required to answer every question, blah blah blah. Practical reality: most traffic stops don't go further once ID is confirmed. Officers usually don't have tools on the roadside to instantly verify birthplace, but databases, booking, or later investigation can reveal inconsistencies. So yes, people can lie, but silence is safer, legal, and can't be used against you the same way. Safest response options: I'm not comfortable answering that. I like to remain silent, and that just makes you look more guilty. So that's actually, yeah, I doubt that's safer. Am I required to answer that question? No attitude, no confrontation. Bottom line: lying equals risk. Silence equals protected. Truth, if you was born, equals ends the issue. So I asked it, so what's the point? Why would anyone willingly tell if they aren't born here, right? The point that I made before. Why would someone just freely give that up, knowing the consequences behind it? That's the real question, and you're right to notice the tension. The honest answer: most people who aren't born in the US gain nothing by volunteering that information during a traffic stop, or, again, not just traffic stop. I know I specifically asked it that, but I was, halfway asleep when going through this. But during, as I said, consensual encounters or whatever, the policy relies less on logic and more on human behavior. Here's why people do answer anyway, why people still tell the truth. Most people are conditioned to answer police questions. From childhood, we're taught cooperate, don't argue. If you have nothing to hide, just answer, which is bullshit. I highly doubt most people are telling the truth. Many people don't realize that birthplace questions are optional. Scroll down. Bottom line: the point isn't that everyone will answer. The point is that enough people will. Policies like this rely on, which I doubt it still, policies like this rely on compliance, stress, lack of legal knowledge, not force, right? So main point being, up here, most people who aren't born in the US gain nothing by volunteering that information. So why would they? Right? Knowing that if you do, you're getting sent to ICE, you're getting quote unquote deported, right? Because we really don't know what the hell they're doing with them. And then, what's stopping someone from lying? And if you don't have to, prove it. How would they know if you're lying? So all in all, this whole thing just seemed pointless, right? And that was the thought that came to my mind upon first hearing it. But then you realize how this devil works, because the fact that you can't prove it, the fact that people can just lie, opens the door for them to say, okay, we need something else, right? Because clearly people are lying, so we need to be able to prove it, right? It justifies them opening the door to something like what? Digital IDs. With the digital ID, they can see everything. Scan your ID, everything pop up. So it seems like this was purposely placed for that. Because if I can just lie, why the fuck would I tell you the truth? And that's what they're betting on people to think. Oh, there's no way of us knowing if they're lying or not. See, but if you had a digital ID, we can easily check. Some bullshit like that. In which we know later opens the door to what? The MOTB. And this is a process that they like to use, because that's how these devils play, right? They use gradualism. It's like a card game, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Is what I'm thinking of. How they set down a card that's basically ineffective, right? A garbage ass card on its own, but later down the game they'll play like a mediocre type of card, a mediocre type of monster, and then they will use the garbage card on that monster that makes that monster powerful. And that's how it is with this. It might seem vain right now, but later on down the line they're going to be like, oh, this what this was for. This is why they started doing that. This what this led to. But there was another article I wanted to get right here. It reads, robots tear up stage as backup dancers. How long is this one? Okay, this one is fairly short. It reads, Chinese robotics company Unitree's G1 humanoid robot has taken over the internet by storm, from videos of it shooting hoops like an absolute boss to more dubious viral fame that comes from being assaulted on camera by a live streamer. Its technical chops are beyond repute. The highly agile bipedal androids can perform gnarly kung fu moves, even take a direct dropkick without tumbling, right? And soon a lot of niggas gonna personally feel that drop kick and these kung fu moves when they set these on the people of the public. Now the G1 robot has made its major stage debut by appearing alongside Chinese singer Wang Lihong during a Friday night concert in Chengdu, China. Video footage shows an army of the robots dressed up in flashy outfits consisting of baggy pants and sparkling overshirts, pulling off some awfully convincing dance moves as their movements almost perfectly blend in with the human dancers accompanying Wang on stage. At one point, several of the robots can even be seen performing a front flip in near perfection unison. It's an impressive feat of coordination and programming, demonstrating once again how far humanoid robots, especially ones being developed in China, have come in a matter of years, right? And there's no question that China is definitely in first place when it comes to this humanoid robot race right now. But let's take a look at this video. Mute it. Hold on. But as you can see, right, you have the robots dancing amongst them. Right, and it's crazy because, bro, you throw a couple of some of that fake ass skin they be having, right, with the fake ass skin with the faces and the fake flesh, throw some of that on these robots, you wouldn't even be able to tell that they were robots from back here. All right, so I think that's the end of the robots. But yeah, so let's continue reading first. The concert was part of Wing's Best Place tour and took place at the Chengdu Dong'an Lake Sports Park multifunctional gymnasium, which seats 18,000 spectators. The performance marked a rare example of a robotic dancer in concert blending advanced technology with powerful live music, the singer's website boasts. As the opening beats of Open Fire filled the venue, robotic dancers appeared and moved in perfect synchronization with Wang Lihom's choreography. Right? So, man, sooner or later, even these dancers not safe. They real deal taking everybody's jobs. Many fans praised the performance as one of the most creative highlights of the Best Place tour, showing how music and technology can merge seamlessly, right? And soon they're going to be saying the same thing about humans and technology. Indeed, the performance appears to have impressed many. Okay, robots in China are next level, one observer tweeted. They can do everything, even dancing like professionals. Besides being part of a high-budget stage performance, Unitree is looking to get all of its G1 robots dancing in people's homes. The company recently showed off a feature dubbed Keep the Music Going, Keep the Dance Flowing, which was just developed in the past few days and hasn't rolled out to customers yet. And that's the point. It's looking to get all of its G1 robots dancing in people's homes, going into the whole point of this being basically gradualism, right? They keep pushing these robots, these humanoid robots, just like how they did with the AI, right? Having them amongst public, showing us all these quote unquote cool videos and interesting flips and tricks they can do. Basically, they're slowly conditioning the minds of the people to accept these type of things, right? And why is that? Because they want these in people's homes. They want them, operating within society as if they were humans themselves, man. Like basically going into the fourth industrial revolution, right? Man and technology. And I say slowly conditioning, but really it all kind of seems fast, because it feels like not too long ago we were at where we were with the AI, right? They got the AI up to date, so now they can start ushering out the robots that are spirited, right, by the AI, right? The AI is like their spirit, their life, right? And it seems like a month or two ago where they really started pushing these humanoid robots, and now look at them. These niggas on stage dancing and shit, and they talking about having them in people's homes, right? And I believe Elon Musk even said something like that, right? Everyone will want to have one of these in their homes, or something along those lines, right? But that all happened within a span of like a month or two, which goes to show you, as scripture says, right, these devils know they have a short time, man. So I say slowly conditioning the minds of the people, but really is all happening kind of fast, because people are already okay with this, right? When they should be concerned, because soon, right, these same robots are going to be taken in places of these officers in the law enforcement, so on and so forth, right? Which goes back to the whole asking your date of birth thing, right? If you let's say you get stopped in traffic and it's a fucking robot that pulls you over with a built-in lie detector in his eyes, so he knows if you're lying or not, right? When you can be telling the God honest truth, but because you're a little sweaty, because you're getting pulled over, they detect it as a lie, and now you're coming with them. And that's the type of society that these devils want to build. This is book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 15. The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. Right, so the prudent man is looking to the word prudent. But the prudent, Irawam, subtle, shrewd, crafty, sly, sensible, crafty, shrewd, sensible, prudent, crafty, subtle, cunning, usually in a bad sense, crafty, prudent, subtle, right? And then obviously this one isn't in a bad sense, right? A prudent man being a subtle, or what's the other word? Slakia? sensible, right? You're walking with sense, you're walking with wisdom. So you're paying attention to the things around you, right? You're looking well to his going. And it's like, let's say you're walking, you and some brothers are walking on the sidewalk, right? Or you and other people are walking on the sidewalk, and you're paying attention down the road, right? Down the sidewalk, and you see something on the sidewalk. You're like, what is that? Right? You're watching it, you're looking at it, you tapping the brother's shoulders. Yo, you seeing this? Right? What do you think that is? We should probably watch out for that, right? Basically, getting yourselves ready for when you approach it, versus others, they walking down with their head down, pants sagging, they all on their phone, worried about Instagram, so on and so forth, and then they're going to walk straight into whatever the hell that is. But that's how it's likened unto us, right? The prudent men, we're watching, giving diligence, and looking at the things happening around the world. That's why we notice things like this, right? It seems to be small, but we know it's part of a much greater puzzle. And every piece of a puzzle is important, because you cannot finish the puzzle without a piece. But again, right, everything that we're seeing happen now, everything that these devils are putting into play, everything that Esau is putting into play, all the puzzle pieces that they're laying down, is all heading towards what? The mark of the beast, right? The RFID micro seal. This is Revelation chapter 13 verse 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Just look into this word mark. You have the word charagma. Charagma, a stamp, an imprinted mark, with the mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand as the badge of the followers of the Antichrist. The mark branded upon horses, thing carved, sculpture, graven work of idolatrous images. And this charagma is going to be a literal, physical, tangible thing placed under the skin, right? That's going to be able to be used to buy and sell. It's like, as we're going to read in the 17th verse, right? But when you go deeper into it, the root, you have charax, from carasso, to sharpen to a point, akin to the idea of scratching, a pale or stake, a palisade or rampart, in which basically the charax would be whatever the utensil or whatever is used to actually grave into the skin, right? Or to pale into the skin, to cut it open and whatever, in order to place the mark underneath the skin, right? In order to, the charax would be used to place the charagma underneath the skin, right? Showing you that this is an actual thing. This is not sin or any other thing that these false prophets tell you that it is. It's the microseal. Verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he that hath the mark, right? So using that charagma, you're going to be able to buy or sell with it, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name, in which all of those will be basically inside of having that mark, right? The name and the number, which is, here is the wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, right? And when we go and look into that last 6, being the word stigma, high psi stigma, right? 666. You have the word stigma, the last 6. It reads, a mark pricked in or branded upon the body, right? How would it be pricked in or branded upon the body? Using a cross. To ancient oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander, branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belong to, right? So how can you deny that the mark is anything other than the RFID microseal, man? It's literally going to be engraven under your skin, right? Your skin has to be pricked into or cut open in order for them to put it within there. And again, that shows the Lord that what? You view this devil as your God, right? As it says, into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belong to. That's telling the Lord, I belong to the so-called white man, Lord. That's why I took this. I belong to Esau, Edom. That's why I took this. And that's exactly why you're going to be destroyed too. And there were even some devotees, Slakia, who stamped themselves in this way with the token of their gods. Stigma from a primary to stick, prick, and mark, incised or punched for recognition of ownership. So, going back, rereading the 16th verse, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, the charagma, in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man, and its number is 666. Right? So we just basically read what this mark was and what it was likened unto. Right? What's taking it, likened unto, and why you have to be destroyed upon taking it. Well, not upon taking it, but when you take it, you're through. Right? Ain't no recovering from that. This is Revelation chapter 14. Starting at verse 9. It reads, doom for worshippers of the beast. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, for any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. Right? Because worshiping the image and the mark, they're two separate things. But if you're taking the mark, then you're worshiping the image. Right? Worshiping the system, and basically the system that these devils want to create through their technology, right? Through technological means. Okay, Salakia for the interruption, but continuing, right? Basically speaking about the destruction coming upon those who take the mark of the beast, right? And worship the beast and his image. Basically, you're down with this system. You're down with Esau's system, and you're down with Esau, right? Which is opposing the Heavenly Father. The same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Holy Lamb. So like in the presence of the Lamb, right? Going into when America is set ablaze, truly becomes a melting pot, right, by the nuclear missiles and the lasers from the chariots and the angels of Yahweh B'Shem Abishai. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of the Most High and the faith of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. Right, so that's the destruction and the final judgment for those who take the mark, worship the beast, his image, which is why you shouldn't. And again, before we close off, right, the mark of the beast, the MOTB, is the RFID micro C-hip, a small C-hip, right, like the size of a grain of rice. Not anything else. So with that being said, once more, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, B'Hashem, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Lord willing, this video was edifying or informative in some way, shape, or form, and shalom to the hopeful elect.